Steve here with ICRPG behind the DM screen. In this episode, we'll be talking about target, hearts, and effort, probably the most iconic aspects of ICRPG. As always, I will have some comments, questions, and modifications to throw at you. Please like and subscribe. Jumping right in, this is page 10 of the Master Edition rulebook. You're going to run into the target. Now, this again is part of the core system of ICRPG. Some would even say that it's so quintessential to ICRPG that if you don't have the target, it's not even the same game. I am going to, of course, bend that a little bit. I want to hear your comments below. Tell me what you think of some modifications that I'll bring up in this video. But essentially, the target does make things very simple. It essentially makes it so that any encounter, and I'll bring in my handy-dandy one-page map. So like let's say in here, these are all different encounters along the way on this campaign. Well, you can assign a target to say this room, for example. And anything in that room has to meet or beat that target. Okay, whether it's full of orcs, whether it's a dragon, whether it's some kind of lock that you have to pick, that whole room or that whole situation will be assigned a target. That target can change. We'll talk about that in a little bit, maybe in another video. But it also can change from room to room. So maybe let's say this target might be a 10, whereas this target with the dragon might be, say, 15, something like that. So you get the idea. So that's how targets do. You assign a target. That way, not every little piece and detail in that room has to be fiddle factored with the mathematics of your stats, okay? So that's the target. Typically, the targets are going to be between 10 and 18. We'll talk about hard and easy in just a second. And those are the dice rolls. So you're going to roll your 20-sided die. Of course, you know, that's what the game is based on, is the D20. Makes it pretty simple. And you have to ask yourself, okay, is this going to be a check or an attempt? So in other words, is it something that is immediate results? Like, did I open the door? Yes or no? You know, did I hit the guy? Yes or no? That's a check. Versus an attempt, which is just a repeated thing that you're going to have to find out about. And then what you do is adding to your roll is whatever stat that you're using to help your roll. Let's go back to the door example. Are you a barbarian trying to break it down? Okay, then your target is, say, 12, and you rolled a 7, and let's say, you know, you have a strength stat of 2. Well, that's a 9. You didn't meet the 12. Too bad, didn't work. So that's essentially how that rolls. What stat are you using to help your roll? And that's all stacked up against the target. What I absolutely love in ICRPG is this idea of hard and easy to the target. So in essence, in a nutshell, hard adds 3 points to the target and easy subtracts 3 points to the target. And that allows the GM to modify things without modifying the entire encounter, okay? So when things are easy, let's say, whatever, you're going to be doing something like, let's say you're picking a lock and you're a thief. Okay, that should be easy for you. So if the room is, say, 15, instead of having it be 15, that's an easy one. So it's going to be a 12, 15 minus 3. On the counterpoint, when things are difficult, say you're trying to do like extra damage, or you're trying to, you know, do something that's really hard for your character, the GM can say, well, yeah, the room is a 12, but that's going to be a hard 12, which means it's going to be a 15 for you to beat that. So at any time, you can implement hard and easy. I think that's really cool. Now let me tell you a little bit about a modifier that I like to use. So a lot of times, not all the time, but a lot of times, I think in terms of percentages, especially if I'm GMing, okay? So what I mean by that is I kind of look at a character, I look at their strengths, their weaknesses, the situation in the room. All right, I think, what is the likelihood, or what is the percent chance that that character is going to be able to pull off that particular action in that particular situation? That's kind of a decision that's on the fly, and it takes in a lot of nebulous variables, right? But it does what it needs to do. That's where percentage die come in, okay? Now, what's weird is not maybe so weird, but I know a lot of people who've been playing RPGs for a long time that don't really even know about percentage die or how to use them. I was talking to a friend of mine just last night, in fact, about how I like to use percentages. I was going to go over this video with him. And yeah, he said, oh man, that's super cool. Well, I learned this actually not in D&D, but in a Call of Cthulhu game that somebody introduced me. And I thought, man, that is brilliant. So I want to introduce this idea of percentages to you as a variable or as a modification when you don't feel that the target is sufficient. I love the target idea, right? I'm not knocking the target idea. I think it makes things simple. I think it makes the game play quick, really, really nice and elegant, but maybe a little too broad sometimes, you know? And so I would probably use even instead of maybe hard, or maybe not instead of, but maybe in conjunction with hard and easy, I would sometimes just go, you know what? I can't quite get the nuance that I want. I'm going to go with percentages. So let me show you real quick. You guys, I'm sure, have seen these in your dice sets. What are these things? A percentage die, you've got essentially two 10-sided die, right? You've got the one here that has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, all the way up, okay, to 100. And then you've got, or I guess it's actually to 90. So it's 0 through 90. And then you've got this one, which is just 1 through 10, single digits. So you roll them both, and let's say, for example, this roll, okay? So I got to take my glasses off because I'm blind as a bat. All right, so that would be a 10 and a 9, right? So that'd be a 19. All right, so the way that this works is, let's say I'm in a situation, and I as the GM, say, you know what, given that situation, that character, all of that, I give your player a 72% chance of pulling this off. So you roll this, and anything less than 72 is a success. Anything above is a failure. So it's kind of a little bit opposite in your mind on how it works, but basically you're saying, you know, this is the threshold, and anything in this is good to go. Anything above in that little margin, because that way if you say, you know, I give you a 90% chance to make it, right? Well, that means just 10% of failure. So it's that little sliver up top that you could fail at. Conversely, if you say, you know what, you got a 10% chance of pulling this off, right? That means you've got to roll a 10 or lower to make it happen. So think about that. Tell me what you think about using percentages. Have you used percentages, particularly, specifically in ICRPG? What scenarios did you use percentages with? Did you use them in conjunction with the target, or did you use them completely separately? So let me know in the comments below. Now, if you want to get really fancy, they actually make 100-sided die. I think my eyes are a little too old to read it, but anyway, if you have one of those 100-sided die, they're pretty cool. So I've bounced around a little bit back and forth on to which I should explain first, the effort or the hearts. And since I'll just follow the rule book more or less, we'll talk about effort first, but I really think you have to understand that effort works with heart. They're really kind of inseparable. So bear with me on that. You can kind of go through here first and maybe understand what hearts are before you understand what efforts are. But let's see what we can do. So effort. This is another area where ICRPG really shines as far as making things simple and really fun, actually. Really kind of cool. So effort is used when you're doing an attempt at a target, okay? So or an attempted roll. So you got your target, and then you are now making that attempt against something. So let's say you are trying to batter a door, you know, with a battering ram. That's something that's not just a one and done. It's kind of going to take multiple efforts. Okay, that battering ram is going to, or the door rather, is going to be assigned a certain number of hearts or hit points, whatever you will, and you're going to have to apply effort against that to overcome it. Okay, so you're going to have to kind of whittle it down. Now here's how this works, and I think this is, again, really, really cool. So you go ahead, You roll your target, you succeeded, and it requires effort. Now you can determine, is it basic effort, weapons and tools, guns, magic and energy, or ultimate? Basic effort is something that you're just using your bare hands and what you got. That's it, just your own person. That you roll a four-sided die. Okay, that's going to be basically the number that you whittle down. So if it's hit points, for example, or hearts, it's going to take that number roll from a four-sided die off of that. And you're going to have to keep rolling and rolling and rolling to finally whittle that down to 0 to accomplish your goal. Weapons and tools, if you have something in your hand, like a pry bar or a battering ram or whatever it is, right? That's going to be a six-sided die roll. Moving along, if you're going to do guns because they're lethal, that's an 8-sided roll. Magic and energy is a 10, okay? And then here's the cool part too, ultimate. Now, if on your turn, if you roll that d20 and that attempt, you roll that d20 and it's a natural 20, then in addition to whatever one of these you use for your roll for damage, as we would say in old D&D terms, you also roll an additional d12. That's the ultimate. So pretty cool. So it's basically something that you're like, yes, I got a 20. I can roll that ultimate and really put the hurt on whatever it is you're doing. So I really do like that system. I think it's cool. And it also lets you use your dice. You know, let's face it, guys. We most of us have little dice collections, and I have no idea. We're not using all that kind of amount of dice. Some people think, you know, one set of dice is like bad that night or rolling poorly that night. Tell me what you think if you believe in that kind of... I'll just leave my judgment to myself. How's that? But I always roll bad. It doesn't matter what night it is or what dice set I use. My rolls are always terrible. So maybe I need a new set of dice. Who knows? All right, so moving on to hearts. So hearts are essentially hit points, okay? Everything is assigned a heart. A heart is worth 10 HP. And this was taken out of the idea of video games, really, because you know, you see all the hearts and you whittle down your hearts, and that's kind of your life. But just know that a heart is 10 points. I still like hit points, guys. Going to be perfectly honest with you. This is one thing where I most likely will not use in ICRPG is the heart system. I still just like the precision of hit points. I like dialing that in. You know, is 15 half a heart? I'm not sure how I like that in my mind. So again, let me know in the comments below what you think of the whole hearts idea. Well, there's a pretty brief, hopefully simple explanation of target, hearts, and effort in ICRPG. Those really are the core mechanics of how you go through the game. So, you know, other than movement, we'll get into that in a later video. But those really are kind of the biggies that make game flow quickly and game flow seamlessly. And I think a whole lot more streamlined, makes it super fun at your table. But obviously, I'm going to do some modifications, particularly with percentages, and would love to hear any mods that you guys have. What works for you, what doesn't work for you. Again, no system is perfect, right? So even though we absolutely love ICRPG, there are always ways that we can either tailor it to our own group or our own situation. I'd love to hear that in the comments below. Thanks again for watching, and may your dice always roll with advantage.